As any meteorologist will tell you, predicting the weather can be a tough task, and this is especially true considering how insane the natural world can be. In fact, you'd be surprised at some of the weather occurrences experienced across the globe, but which of these phenomena are the strangest of them all, and what areas should you be visiting if you want to see them for yourself? For all this and more, stay tuned. 1. The bleeding of the Indian sky. First up on our list is an occurrence straight out of a horror movie, which caused many at the time to think that the end of days were fast approaching. We are, of course, referring to the falling of blood rain, which last took place in September of 2001 in the region of India. According to reports about the incident, citizens heard a loud boom in the sky, which was then followed by a downpour of rain that was crimson in color. Completely baffled by the occurrence, scientists from all over rushed down to collect samples of the rain, with some even discovering pools that were black and yellow in color. And if the stories floating around at the time are to be believed, the falling of this rain also resulted in the surrounding trees turning gray and shedding their leaves. But take these rumors with a pinch of salt, as no evidence was actually found of this little phenomenon. After the samples of this blood rain were tested, scientists discovered that an algae present in the rainwater was responsible for the reddish color of the rain. But what really confused experts is how the algae was actually able to collect in the clouds. It's not like large impurities like algae can be carried with evaporated water after all. Stranger yet, the DNA of this algae didn't match anything around at the time. That is, until researchers linked the algae to Trenchifolia annulata, putting the alien theory to bed. 2. Ever heard of it raining fish and frogs? This isn't the only strange occurrence that was at first mistaken as a warning from the heavens, though. In fact, something similar happened back in 1947 in a small town just within the boundaries of Louisiana. But instead of leaking a crimson liquid, the skies opened up and it rained fish. This was following a pretty devastating storm and had townsfolk asking whether the Lord had actually blessed them with food in return for the disastrous weather they had to put up with over the last few days. Then in 2005, the people of Serbia discovered that it wasn't just fish which could be gifted from above. On one fateful day, a cluster of frogs also made their way down to the streets from the sky, unfortunately splattering on cars and umbrellas due to the effects of gravity. But before we turn to the Bible for an explanation of these events, what did scientists discover about these specific instances? Well, according to experts in the field, this was far from a gift or warning from above. As it turns out, a far simpler explanation is that a nearby tornado picked these creatures up, flung them around in its high-pressure cone, and then deposited them on the respective towns after quickly dissipating. Since the waterspout of a tornado loses energy with every few feet it travels on land, it makes sense it would have collapsed along with its cargo without the townsfolk even noticing. Still a pretty unique experience though. 3. The morning glory clouds of the Gulf. Another weather phenomena that is pretty rare is the morning glory clouds that have been photographed by NASA over the years in the regions of California, eastern Russia, and the English Channel, and they truly are a spectacle to witness. For those of you who don't know, these clouds take the appearance of long tubes that dance across the sky for kilometers at a time. In fact, the longest was once measured at just under 1,000 kilometers with 0 breaks in between. Considering how these clouds can also combine and appear consecutively after one another, people have often confused them for chemical trails left by everything from aliens to suspicious government agencies. But the scientific community seems to agree that they are formed when an updraft pushes through the cloud, creating the rolling appearance we have become familiar with. How this happens for kilometers at a time, though, we have no idea. It has also been said that the moist, cooler air sitting at the back of these clouds results in them existing pretty low to the ground, allowing them to snake through the sky and confuse those who are seeing them for the first time. If you really want to see this phenomenon for yourself, though, head on over to the Gulf of Carpentaria in northern Australia during the months of September to November. Who knows? You might just get lucky. Are volcanic tornadoes an actual thing? We are covering this and more right now, so don't go anywhere. What happens when ice boulders fall? For many, hailstorms are a pretty common occurrence and consist of small balls of ice that fall from the sky. According to scientific studies, this is the result of droplets of rainwater being supercooled within clouds due to frigid conditions, allowing for those droplets to fall as clumps of ice rather than soft droplets of water. But when it comes to hail, you expect pieces of ice that are no larger than a dime, which brings us to the next weather occurrence on our list. Back in July of 2010 in Vivian, South Dakota, hail fell down from the sky that was around 8 inches in diameter, which is equivalent to around 20 centimeters. That's 2/3 of the length of a ruler. Now imagine the damage those massive ice boulders could inflict after falling from the sky. It goes without saying, but an umbrella isn't going to protect you from an icy meteoroid asteroids such as this. In fact, large-scale hailstorms have been known to not only kill people on impact, but damage buildings and aircrafts as well. How do these massive boulders form though? Well, exactly the same as the smaller hail we have come to know. But more often than not, these ice balls are carried back up into the sky by updroughts, where they collect even more icy layers than before. A couple of trips later, and you have yourself a pretty large ice boulder. 5. The frost flowers of the Arctic Ocean. Despite what killer hailstorms and disaster movies might tell you, ice isn't always a terrible thing though. In fact, the natural phenomenon can result in one of the most beautiful weather occurrences throughout the world. To experience what has been called the Arctic Ocean frost flowers though, you have to take a trip to the Arctic Ocean, which is not only frigid, but incredibly dangerous. According to reports, these incredible icy flowers form from imperfections in the frozen sea when the conditions at sub-zero temperatures are just right. As it turns out, the formation of these beautiful creations require a temperature of around negative 20 degrees Celsius, but that's not the most interesting thing about them. You see, these flowers have been found to contain microorganisms within them, which go on to form their very own ecosystems within the frozen mass. This is similar to what we experience when it comes to naturally occurring coral reefs, and looks just as beautiful. In other words, the reappearance and disappearance of the Arctic Ocean frost flowers shows us how small civilizations can rise and fall in an instant, giving us a rather godlike view of the world. Suffice to say, it's an experience that shouldn't be missed. So if you're a fan of the cold, you know where to venture for your next adventure. Just don't forget to take a coat. 6. Are volcanic tornadoes an actual thing? Yes, they are. Last but not least, we have a terrifying phenomenon that has to be seen to be believed. We are, of course, referring to the explosive volcanic tornadoes of regions such as Hawaii. But what does this actually mean? Well, when a volcano erupts, it throws a certain amount of ash and rock into the atmosphere. And since this matter has traveled from below the Earth's crust, it's pretty hot. We also know that solidified lava pieces and gases flow down the side of the volcano at this time. Unfortunately for the inhabitants of the volcanic island though, this isn't the end. You see, as the matter flows down the volcano, some of the gas gets trapped within the lava, preventing it from rising. And when it finally breaks through the molten material, it starts to spin, and with the further squishing of the hot air causing it to spin faster and faster. And as you can imagine, this results in a rather terrifying tornado, which gathers its energy from the molten liquids beneath it. There is some good news though, since the tornado then moves away from the lava and starts to travel across the land, it loses its energy and mass very quickly. In fact, these volcanic tornadoes only last for a couple of seconds at a time, and it's a good thing too, as we couldn't imagine a worse disaster than this. It is truly the stuff of nightmares. And there you have it, some of the strangest weather occurrences from around the world. Which one would you love to see? And are there any phenomena we missed out on? Be sure to let us know in the comment section down below.